And he's like, write the two words, but make it look like the same word. And I was like, I can't do that. And I realized maybe I could do it. So I wrote on Slack again. I was like, challenge accepted. And everyone was like, oh my God, is she going to do it?
Hey everyone, it's Rob with Right Words Make Magic. You remember the Yanny versus Laurel phenomenon? I know it's hard to remember anything that happened before 2020. But unless you were living under a rock in the middle of May in 2018, this sound, Laurel, was all you heard, and the discussion of whether it says Yanny or Laurel was on everybody's lips. What do you hear, by the way? Let me know in the comments. Well, my guest for the Ambigram Spotlight today is Ariadne Remoundakis, and just a day after the craze started, she posted this image. And amazingly, it says Yanny or Laurel, depending on how you look at it. And this is a perceptual shift to Ambigram. And if you're new to Ambigrams, check out this link right here, where Vsauce gives a great introduction to Ambigrams and some of the earliest artists. And their books are actually right here. Now, without further ado, let's jump right in. Hello, and welcome to the Ambigram Spotlight, Ariadne.
Hey, Rob, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is the first episode of a series I'm going to do to try and delve into different ambigrams, and your Yanny Laurel one is the first one.
That's great. It's great to revisit something like that because I had fun making it.
Yeah, I know. It's just the timing of it and everything, and we'll get into that. But I wanted to give you a chance to say hello, who you are, and what you're about.
Sure. Hi, I'm Ariadne. I'm a lettering artist based in San Francisco, and I also work at Adobe, the software company, on the Adobe Fonts team. So my day-to-day work isn't really about lettering, but I'm looking at and assessing fonts all day. So it kind of plays into it. And in the evenings, I try to be more creative and do calligraphy or brush lettering or different kinds of art. And that's my hobby on the side. So I live in San Francisco, working from home for the last almost year now. Mm-hmm. And that gives me a little more time to be creative and pursue lettering more. So that's been one good side effect of it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I feel like calligraphy has exploded in the last year, just with everybody having so much more time to experiment and show their stuff on Instagram. And I know you show a lot of your stuff on Instagram, right?
Yes.
First, I wanted to take you back to the middle of May 2018, no pandemic yet. And this Yanny Laurel was going around, and I'll do the clip of the Yanny Laurel. Laurel. And what did you hear the first time you heard it?
I heard Yanny the first time.
Wow. And I think that's the minority. I'm not sure. I only hear Laurel. I can't even hear anything else.
Yeah. But well, it makes sense since that's actually what it's supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. You can actually go. I'll link in the description. You can go to the vocabulary.com page that still has the exact clip. But yeah, it sparked the Chloe Feldman posted a tweet. I actually did a bunch of research, and Katie Hetzel was the first person who posted it on Reddit, and it just exploded on the internet. Ellen did a piece on it. There are talk shows all over did pieces on it. And so a day later, you posted the tweet of this this ambigram, and talk me through, like, how did you go from hearing the clip to coming up with the idea for this ambigram?
Well, I was at the office with all my coworkers and people were playing the clip, and I was like, oh, I hear Yanny. That's funny that anyone hears Laurel. Then went back to my day. Right. And there was buzz about it, just like everywhere. We were talking about it. But one of my coworkers said, wouldn't it be cool if this was also a visual thing and it wasn't just a sound? And his name is Jake. Hi, Jake. He said, Ari, you should do it. And I was like, what am I going to do? And he's like, write the two words, but make it look like the same word. And I was like, I can't do that. And I just said, haha. In my head, I was thinking I can't do it, but I was like,
Yeah, it seems
LOL. Like,
impossible.
yeah, I just said, I'll see what I can do. And then I was thinking about it and I was like, it's impossible. There's no way an L can be a Y and like an R can be, I don't know, an L. Both L's had to become Y's. I'm like, how is that going to happen? So I just thought about it a little bit. I kind of gave up on it. And then later I was just doodling. This is all at the office, like in the course of a day. And I realized maybe I could do it. So I wrote on Slack again. I was like, challenge accepted. And everyone's like, oh my God, is she going to do it? So the next day I had done it. I had gone home and like drawn it a couple times. And I actually have the piece of paper, or the original piece of paper from 2018 where I drew it. And the bottom one is the one I ended up using.
Yeah. It looks like it's printed. That's so smooth.
Well, there's a lot of whiteout on it. The top one is like more rough, but this one has like a lot of whiteout, and I outlined it again and stuff. But I just drew it, and then I used Adobe Capture on my phone to kind of scan it and bring it into the computer, and posted it on the same Twitter thread. And that's when it just got a lot of attention. And I had no idea that people would enjoy it that much. So it was very shocking to me.
Yeah, I feel like it invoked a similar amount of controversy of what people read on it as the clip. Like people putting Yorel or Lani or all the different combinations. Because as you look at the letters, you could interpret each of them individually.
Yeah, it was kind of a good lesson. I feel like everyone should have this happen to them so that you can experience like fleeting attention and scrutiny overwhelming, and be like, what, how do I deal with this? And it makes you think about like people who get negative attention, people who get positive. Like it's never going to be only positive. It's never going to be all like easy to do. It's either going to be like people are bombarding you. One of the things that happened was a lot of people used this artwork on their own page or posted about it without crediting me. And at the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm so excited that they posted it. But then as things progressed and there was more and more attention, I started getting more possessive of it and felt more like, you know, I needed to take control and show that it was mine.
Yeah.
And, you know, with friends and family telling me like, you need to tell people this is your thing. I was like, oh my God, I need to.
Yeah, so, actually the first time I saw it was on a Reddit thread and it just said artist unknown. And I actually had to do some internet sleuthing just to find your original tweet, because there was so much else out there. There was like someone did it in graffiti on a bus stop and other people posting it, and none of them said anything about who it was. It took me a while to figure it out.
Yeah. And before this happened, I didn't really care about anyone using my lettering because there wasn't a lot of attention. There weren't a lot of people viewing it. But then as more people started viewing it, I started to understand how important getting credited for your work is, especially if it's your livelihood, which I'm lucky to have a full-time job that this isn't my livelihood. But for artists who create these pieces of work and that's their bread and butter, it's catastrophic if someone is using your work and it gets attention without you getting any reward from it. So it really gave me an insight into that, because I was new to being creative and the art world and social media in general. It was like kind of the beginning of my account. So that was a great lesson.
And I think Ambigrams have this specifically because there's a problem-solving aspect to Ambigrams. But before you even draw it ever, like you have to calculate it out. You have to plan it out like you did. And all of that planning phase is like half or more of the work. As you actually drawing it, like that part anybody almost could do to some extent if they're decent at lettering, but like calculating it out and figuring out how it's going to work is like where the real value is. And so once you post it, it's almost like you're posting that calculation work to everybody. And so it's a hard challenge in Ambigrams to try and like hide that, but also show everybody at the same time. I wanted to actually delve in a little bit to the Ambigram itself. And so I put it back up on the screen here. And if you could just walk us through like just the different letters and how you form some of them.
Sure. So the first thought I had was this has to be cursive letter forms. If it's going to work, that's the only way I could imagine an L turning into a Y.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I think finding out that an L can be like a Y with that loop like that, I think that was that like an aha moment for the entire design.
Yeah, I think that was the first thing I did. And at first, the part of the loop that looks like a Y was a little bit different. It was more like an open curve, just like a normal cursive L would be. And I was like, oh, this could look like a Y, but it wasn't obvious enough. So I played around with it a little bit. And then the placement of the rest of the letters being a little bit higher than you would normally, or making sure that the bottom part of the L could also descend a little bit. So anything below the baseline of letters, we call a descender in typography. So the bottom of the Y is a descender. And how can I make sure that it can work both as a descender and as the bottom of an L, which would normally be like at the same height as the rest. So that placement was important. And then I was like, hey, perfect. It's the same in both.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Ambigrams, there's some luck involved. And so finding those pieces that are the same between them is good.
Definitely luck. And I think that came out afterwards when I got a lot of requests from people to commission me to do ambigrams. And they'd be like, can you do an ambigram that says like revolution and environment in the same word? And I'm like, actually, not everything works. Like maybe I could. It could take me like months to figure that out.
Right.
But this one definitely had some luck to do it in a day.
Yeah, I think there's this magical quality of ambigrams, and when people see them for the first time, it's just like, this person just wields magic with their letters, and it's great. It's like it feels good to be like, feel like you're creating magic. But then they might expect you to be able to do it for anything else as well. And there's a lot of serendipity in ambigrams. You got to find these relationships that that no one else sees. That really make an ambigram work.
Definitely. And then I've always seen U look like an N. I think sometimes that's an issue. That's another thing with ambigrams is like a lot of things that are usually issues in lettering with legibility come out in your favor. We've all seen, an N that's written really quickly and could be read wrong as a U. So I use that to my advantage. I'm like, oh, this could work if I just change the proportion. Yeah, so look out for the mistakes that you see in like people's handwriting. And then the R, I was thinking, okay, I could do like a cursive form of an R because a lot of times those do look like N's too.
Up and down, yeah.
Yeah. And I was trying to figure that out, but it was so different from the previous N or U form that it kind of jarred the eye and it made you think it was a different letter. So I was like, how can I make the R, maybe if I do like a more normal R, if I make the bottom part go down enough, it could look like an N. So I did that.
That's a really good point in ambigrams as well, is like consistency of letters. Like you're always trying to make the N here look like another N that you have in the other part of the word. And sometimes it's really hard. Like you really want a capital N over here and a lowercase n over here. But then it looks weird when you read it.
That's true too. And I've seen you do that too, that you keep the consistency in yours. And then the end, the E-L, I tried to keep the loops really small so that
Mhm.
they could just look like a decorative flourish.
Mhm.
And tried to, I think the L turning into a Y at the end is the most like borderline
Iffy part of
one.
it.
It's like, you would never draw an L like that, but it works for this particular word.
Cool. I really appreciate you going through that letter by letter. Very interesting to hear your thought process on it. So this type of ambigram is called a perceptual shift ambigram. Had you seen any of those prior to coming up with this design? Most times people who do ambigrams, they say one thing one way and they flip it upside down to get the other thing. But this one, you don't have to flip it at all. It's just how you perceive the letters. Had you seen those before?
I hadn't seen them knowingly or in recent memory. I think I knew it was possible, but I didn't have any specific in my mind at the time. I had mostly seen the ones that you shift upside down, and I had tried that before, but I had never tried this type before.
Yeah, the first one of this type I saw, it was actually in this wordplay book up there by John Langdon, where it's, and I'll put it down here, it says teach, and the other way it says, if you read it differently, it says learn. And then another one that's amazing is this one that says light is a particle or a wave, depending on whether you read the letters, the thin letters or the thick letters. So I thought that one by Douglas Hofstadter is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that one's really cool. And I like how it takes you a while. Like it's more of a meditative thing rather than the ones that you flip upside down. It's like, oh, I see it. I see it. The other one, you just have to look at it and be like, what is it trying to tell me? Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Actually,
cool.
I was inspired by your Yanny Laurel one to do one that basically says love. So it's that same
Oh,
L to Y.
yeah,
And if you read it as a Y, it could say you.
that's so
So you
cool.
inspired me. And it also has that same thing where the descender goes below the letters.
Yeah,
So yeah, that was something that inspired me as well.
that's awesome. And you made your merch. I also have my merch. I'm drinking my tea out
Oh,
of this mug.
nice.
Yeah.
So you can, if your name is Yanni or Laurel, you can use that mug, just the same.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you ever feel like you're playing with people's minds, because I know that when I got comments about this ambigram, a lot of them were like, I don't think I can see anymore. Like, this is hurting my brain. And why did you do this to me? A lot of it was like, why did you do this to me? And I hate you, basically, in a good way. But I was like,
Right.
oh God, I'm like
They'll never look at
hurting their
letters
brain.
again. I feel like I'll never look at letters again after learning about ambigrams. It just changes how you see letter forms, and it may also be in lettering. With your experience in lettering, you just look at the letters as their shape, as opposed to just being an E. It's like, oh, why did they shape it like that? Or
Yeah.
what if you flip that upside down? Now what does it look like? That kind of thing. So yeah, it has changed my way of looking at letters. And I kind of used it as my name for this YouTube channel, Write Words, Make Magic, because that's how I feel like what ambigrams are. Just write down some words, but make some magic out of them. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Spotlight, Ariadne.
Thanks for having me. It was really fun.
And if anybody else has any suggestions for future Spotlight content, leave it down in the comments. And make sure to follow and subscribe for more ambigram related content.
I'll definitely watch if you have more videos like this.
Take care.